Ladies and gentlemen, let me start with an uncomfortable truth. Life is hard. Not sometimes, not occasionally, but often. There will be moments when you feel crushed under the weight of expectations, failures, and setbacks. You might ask yourself, why am I doing this? What's the point in that? Right there is where the real test begins. When you feel like quitting, you're not just facing external challenges, you're facing the inner critic, that relentless voice telling you that you're not good enough, that you're not strong enough, that you're not strong enough, that you don't have what it takes. And it's seductive, isn't it? Quitting feels like a release. It feels like an escape from the pressure, the fear, and the discomfort. But let me tell you something, quitting is rarely an escape. It's often a surrender to the very forces that hold you back. You see, we live in a world that rewards persistence. It rewards those who can endure discomfort and rise above their doubts. Why? Because persistence is rare. Most people give up long before they've even begun to scratch the surface of their potential. Most people choose comfort over growth, and that's why so few achieve greatness. When you feel like quitting, it's important to ask yourself, what's the alternative? What happens if I give up? Because quitting isn't neutral. It has consequences. It shapes who you are. Every time you quit, you teach yourself to take the easy way out. You reinforce the idea that it's okay to back away from your dreams, your responsibilities, your commitments, and over time that becomes your identity. Now, I'm not saying you should persist in everything. There are paths that lead nowhere, and wisdom lies in knowing when to pivot. But most of the time when you feel like quitting, it's not because the path is wrong. It's because the path is hard, and that's where the work lies. Think of the great moments in history, the turning points in people's lives. They didn't happen because someone quit. They happened because someone decided to endure, to dig deeper, to push through the pain, and to emerge stronger. Think of the artist who paints for years in obscurity, the scientist who works for decades on a breakthrough, the parent who sacrifices endlessly for their children. These people are not exceptional because they're immune to doubt or fear. They're exceptional because they've learned to keep going despite it. So when you feel like quitting, remember this: it's not the difficulty of the path that defines you, it's your willingness to walk it. Your struggles are not barriers, they are the tools shaping you into who you're meant to be. And if you can endure, if you can hold on just a little longer, you might just find that the very thing you were about to quit on becomes the thing that transforms your life. Life is inherently challenging, and this truth is both sobering and empowering. From the moment we begin to navigate the world, we encounter resistance. It's the resistance of learning to walk and falling repeatedly before we can stand on our own. It's the resistance of trying to communicate as a child and being misunderstood or ignored. Life presents obstacles not because it is cruel or unkind, but because it is designed to force us to grow. The very act of living demands resilience, adaptation, and a willingness to face discomfort. Yet when we encounter challenges, our immediate response is often frustration or despair. We ask ourselves, why is this so hard? Why does it feel like the universe is conspiring against me? But this perspective, while human, misses the point. Difficulty isn't a punishment, it's a process. The challenges we face are not evidence of failure, they are opportunities to prove our capacity for endurance and growth. To live is to struggle, and in that struggle lies the essence of what it means to be human. When you confront challenges, you are not just battling external circumstances, you are waging an internal war with doubt, fear, and insecurity. These inner adversaries are far more insidious than any external obstacle. A mountain, after all, is just a mountain. It doesn't care if you climb it or not. But the voice in your head that whispers, you can't do this, you're not good enough, or you should quit before you fail, that voice is personal. It knows your weaknesses, your insecurities, and your deepest fears. It preys on them, magnifies them, and uses them to convince you to stop trying. This is why life's challenges feel so overwhelming at times. It's not just the weight of the task itself, but the weight of the stories we tell ourselves about what failure would mean. We imagine that failing to succeed is an indictment of our worth, that struggling is proof of our inadequacy. But this is a lie. Struggle is not a flaw in the system, it is the system. It's how we learn, how we grow, and how we become capable of more than we ever thought possible. Consider the alternative, a life without challenges. At first glance, it might seem appealing, a life of comfort, ease, and uninterrupted success. But such a life would be hollow. Without resistance, there is no growth. Without effort, there is no reward. The satisfaction we feel when we achieve something isn't just about the achievement itself, it's about the journey we took to get there, the obstacles we overcame, the doubts we silenced, and the fears we faced down. To understand that life is challenging is to embrace its very nature. It means accepting that struggle is not an interruption of the path, but the path itself. Every difficulty you face is a reminder that you are alive, engaged, and moving forward. The presence of resistance is not evidence that you're failing, it's evidence that you're in the game. And that's exactly where you're meant to be. Quitting is seductive because it offers the illusion of immediate relief from discomfort. When you're faced with a challenge that feels insurmountable, the idea of walking away can seem like the simplest and most attractive option. It whispers promises of freedom from stress, from fear, from the overwhelming pressure that comes with pushing through difficulties. In that moment, quitting feels like it will set you free. But this is a dangerous illusion. Quitting doesn't resolve the root of the problem, it merely delays its reckoning. The discomfort that made you want to quit doesn't disappear, it lingers, often magnified by the regret of knowing you walked away from something that mattered to you. The seductive nature of quitting lies in its immediacy. Our brains are wired to seek relief from pain, whether it's physical, emotional, or psychological. When faced with a difficult situation, quitting offers a short-term solution. It feels like flipping a switch to turn off the stress, and sometimes it even works for a moment. But what follows is often a deeper sense of frustration, because quitting isn't neutral. It carries a cost. Every time you quit, you reinforce a narrative within yourself that giving up is an acceptable response to adversity. This doesn't just impact the situation at hand, it seeps into other areas of your life, shaping how you approach future challenges. There's a profound psychological toll that comes with quitting. It chips away at your sense of agency, the belief that you have control over your life and your ability to overcome obstacles. When you quit, you tell yourself a story: I wasn't strong enough, I couldn't handle it. Or I wasn't meant for this. These stories aren't just words, they become part of your identity. And the more often you quit, the more you internalize the idea that quitting is who you are. Over time, this can erode your confidence, making it even harder to persevere the next time you face a challenge. It's important to recognize that the desire to quit often arises not because the goal is unworthy, but because the path is uncomfortable. Humans are creatures of habit, and we naturally gravitate toward ease and predictability. But growth requires discomfort. It demands that you step outside your comfort zone, face uncertainty, and endure failure. Quitting may protect you from short-term pain, but it robs you of the long-term rewards that come from perseverance. The skills you develop, the resilience you build, and the pride you feel when you overcome adversity, none of these can be achieved if you give up the moment things get tough. Ultimately, quitting is not just a decision, it's a habit. Every time you choose to quit, you reinforce that habit, making it more likely that you'll choose the same path again in the future. But the reverse is also true. Each time you push through discomfort, you teach yourself that you are capable of enduring, growing, and succeeding despite the odds. This is why quitting, while seductive in the moment, is rarely the answer. It offers the illusion of escape, but often leaves behind the weight of what could have been. Persistence is rare because it demands a kind of fortitude that most people are either unwilling or unprepared to cultivate. We live in a world where instant gratification has become the norm, where results are expected quickly, and patience is often dismissed as a relic of the past. In such an environment, the value of persistence has diminished in the eyes of many, but its power remains undiminished. Those who can endure discomfort, delay gratification, and continue striving even when progress is slow or invisible are the ones who achieve extraordinary outcomes. This rarity is what makes persistence so valuable. Most people give up not because they lack potential or ability, but because they misinterpret the struggles they face. They believe that difficulty is a sign they are on the wrong path, or that they are not cut out for the task at hand. This is a fundamental misunderstanding. Difficulty is not a signal to stop, it is a signal to keep going. The path to success, to growth, to mastery, these are not linear or smooth. They are riddled with obstacles, setbacks, and moments of doubt. It is precisely in those moments that persistence becomes the most critical factor. What makes persistence so powerful is its compounding effect. Each time you push through a challenge, you not only move closer to your goal, but also build the internal resilience to tackle future challenges. Persistence teaches you that discomfort is temporary, that failure is a stepping stone, and that effort, even when it feels futile, is never wasted. Over time, This mindset becomes a self-reinforcing cycle. The more you persist, the stronger you become. And the stronger you become, the more you are able to persist. But persistence is not merely about enduring hardships, it is also about maintaining focus in a world full of distractions. Modern life is filled with endless opportunities to deviate from your goals, temptations to quit, to settle for less, to shift your attention to something easier or more immediately rewarding. The persistent individual is the one who learns to tune out these distractions, to keep their eyes on the prize, even when the world seems to conspire against their progress. This ability to stay the course, to remain committed to a vision, is what separates those who achieve greatness from those who settle for mediocrity. The rarity of persistence also stems from the fact that it requires a deep sense of purpose. Without a clear understanding of why you are pursuing a goal, it becomes all too easy to abandon it when the going gets tough. Persistence is fueled by a belief that the end is worth the struggle, that the sacrifices and effort will ultimately lead to something meaningful. This belief is not always easy to sustain, especially when results are slow to materialize, but it is the foundation upon which persistence is built. In a world where most people choose the path of least resistance, persistence is a kind of rebellion. It is a refusal to accept mediocrity, a determination to rise above the challenges and limitations that hold so many back. It is rare because it requires not only strength but also vision, patience, and an unshakable belief in one's ability to overcome. And because it is rare, it is a trait that, when cultivated, can set you apart and propel you toward extraordinary achievements. Quitting carries consequences that extend far beyond the immediate moment. On the surface, quitting may seem like a simple decision, a way to escape frustration, stress, or difficulty. But each time you quit, you leave behind more than just the task or goal at hand. You leave behind an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to prove to yourself that you are capable of more than you think. Quitting is never a neutral act, it has a ripple effect, shaping not only the situation but also your sense of self and how you approach challenges in the future. When you choose to quit, you send a message to yourself. It's a message that says, I couldn't handle this, or this is beyond me, whether you consciously realize it or not. These messages accumulate over time and start to shape your self-perception. Each instance of giving up becomes a small piece of evidence in the story you tell yourself about who you are. And when quitting becomes a habit, that story becomes one of limitation rather than possibility. Instead of seeing yourself as someone who persists, who fights through difficulty and adapts to challenges, you begin to see yourself as someone who retreats when things get hard. The consequences of quitting extend into your future as well. The more often you give up, the more likely you are to give up again. Quitting creates a precedent, a path of least resistance that becomes easier to follow each time you face adversity. It becomes a default response, a mental shortcut that says, why bother? You've walked away before, and you can do it again. This pattern doesn't just apply to one area of your life, it seeps into everything. Whether it's your career, your relationships, your health, or your personal goals, the habit of quitting undermines your ability to stick with anything meaningful over the long term. The impact of quitting isn't just personal, it affects the people around you as well. When you quit, you're not just letting yourself down, you may also be letting down others who rely on you, believe in you, or are inspired by your efforts. Your choices and actions have a broader ripple effect than you might realize. Every time you persevere, you show others what is possible. But when you quit, you demonstrate the opposite. You reinforce the narrative that it's okay to back away from responsibility, that it's acceptable to abandon commitments. It's also worth considering the opportunities lost when you quit. Often we give up just before the breakthrough, just before the moment when all our efforts would have paid off. Success, growth, and fulfillment rarely come easily or quickly. They require sustained effort over time. And that effort is almost always marked by periods of struggle, doubt, and discomfort. Quitting, in many cases, robs you of the rewards that lie just beyond those difficult moments. It keeps you stuck in a cycle of starting over rather than pushing through to reach the other side. Ultimately, quitting isn't just about walking away from a challenge. It's about the long-term patterns, narratives, and opportunities that are shaped by that decision. While it may feel like a relief in the moment, the weight of quitting lingers, leaving behind regrets and reinforcing limitations. Each time you quit, you trade the chance for growth and achievement for temporary comfort, a trade that often proves far more costly than it initially seems. The difference between pivoting and quitting is subtle but important. Pivoting implies a thoughtful, strategic adjustment, changing direction in response to new information or a better understanding of the situation. It's about reassessing your goals or your approach, acknowledging that the path you are on may not be the most effective, and being willing to adapt. Quitting, on the other hand, is often a more impulsive reaction driven by frustration, discomfort, or a sense of defeat. It's choosing to walk away without considering alternatives, without looking for a new path, and without fully analyzing what could be gained from persistence. The key lies in recognizing when a change of direction is necessary and when your struggles are simply part of the process of growth. The challenge comes when the distinction between pivoting and quitting becomes blurred. There will be moments when the path you've chosen no longer feels right, or when your efforts don't seem to yield results despite your best intentions. These moments are often accompanied by a sense of discouragement, as if you've invested too much time and energy only to end up at a dead end. It is precisely in these moments that you need to differentiate between pivoting and quitting. Quitting comes from a place of emotional reaction, surrendering to fear or frustration without deeper reflection. Pivoting, however, is a deliberate, conscious choice to change direction in a way that still aligns with your core values and long-term goals. When you find yourself questioning whether to keep going, ask yourself if the goal is still worthwhile, and whether the method you are using to achieve it is the most effective. Sometimes the obstacles you face are not an indication that the goal itself is wrong, but that your approach needs adjustment. This realization is crucial. Many great achievements are the result of multiple iterations, adjustments, and course corrections. The person who pivots is not abandoning their dreams, they are simply recalibrating their strategy, learning from their failures, and trying again with a new perspective. Pivoting also requires an understanding of the difference between a challenge that is worth overcoming and one that is ultimately futile. Some goals are indeed unworthy of our time or effort. There are situations where persistence in the wrong direction would only lead to unnecessary pain, and recognizing when to pivot in these cases is a sign of wisdom. But this decision should be made thoughtfully and not from a place of emotional exhaustion or fleeting discouragement. Pivoting is not about jumping from one idea to the next at the first sign of trouble. It's about recognizing that sometimes the hardest thing to do is to adjust your course rather than abandon your mission altogether. In many cases, the desire to quit is fueled by the difficulty of the task rather than a lack of purpose. The discomfort that arises from struggling with a goal can easily be mistaken for a sign that the goal itself is flawed. However, this discomfort is often the very thing that forges strength, resilience, and growth. By differentiating between pivoting and quitting, you can ensure that your decisions are not made in haste, but rather with careful reflection on what is truly necessary for your success. This approach not only ensures that you remain aligned with your goals, but also allows you to embrace challenges as opportunities for deeper learning and personal development. Great achievements are rarely, if ever, born out of moments of comfort. History, in both grand and personal terms, is defined by those who did not give up when things became difficult. The breakthroughs, the innovations, and the accomplishments that we admire are almost always the product of persistence in the face of adversity. Think of the artist who struggles to find their voice, the scientist who spends years perfecting an experiment, or the athlete who endures grueling training to break a record. What defines them is not their immunity to failure, but their ability to persist through it. They did not quit when the world told them to, and because of that, they transformed not just their lives, but often the world around them. The pursuit of something great is rarely linear. It is often filled with setbacks, failures, and moments when progress seems non-existent. In these moments, many people give up, thinking that the obstacles are signs that the journey isn't meant to be. But those who achieve greatness see the very same obstacles as challenges to be overcome, as opportunities to learn, adapt, and grow. They understand that difficulty is an integral part of the process, not an indicator to stop. Every failure they encounter isn't a final verdict on their efforts, but a stepping stone toward eventual success. Greatness requires the ability to see beyond temporary setbacks, to trust in the process even when the results aren't immediately visible. It's important to understand that the path to greatness isn't about a single moment of triumph. It's about the accumulation of moments where you choose to continue to push through the hard times and to trust in the long-term rewards of your efforts. It's easy to look at someone who has achieved something remarkable and assume that their success came quickly, effortlessly, or even magically. The reality is that those moments of success are built on countless hours of struggle, failure, and persistence. There are no shortcuts to true greatness, it requires an unshakable belief in the value of the pursuit, even when the fruits of that pursuit seem distant or unclear. Take the example of a writer who struggles for years to find an audience or to get published. For most, the desire to quit would be overwhelming. Yet, those who persist, who continue to write despite rejection and failure, are the ones who ultimately break through. Their success doesn't come because they are inherently more talented or lucky, but because they learned how to endure. They understand that the path to accomplishment is not about avoiding failure, but about persisting through it, learning from it, and emerging stronger on the other side. The same principle applies to any field, whether it's business, art, science, or sports. The person who stays the course, who keeps trying when others would give up, is the one who makes the breakthrough, who discovers the innovation, or who reaches the pinnacle of their field. They understand that greatness is not a one-time achievement, but the result of continuous effort, learning, and adaptation. This is why persistence is the most important ingredient in any pursuit of excellence. It's not enough to start strong or to have an initial burst of inspiration. It's the ability to maintain focus, to keep going despite setbacks, that separates the great from the merely good. This is not to say that greatness is guaranteed by persistence alone, but the chances of achieving something extraordinary increase exponentially for those who keep going, who keep refining their approach, and who learn from their mistakes. The journey toward greatness is hard, yes, but it is also the most rewarding path you can take. The moment you decide to persist, to continue despite the odds, is the moment you begin to transform not just your circumstances, but yourself. When we are faced with challenges, we often look to the end result as the primary motivator. We fixate on the idea of achieving the goal, the completion of the task, or the final reward, believing that only when we reach the destination will we be able to relax, to feel accomplished, and to find fulfillment. While the end result is important, it's the journey, the process of overcoming obstacles, learning from setbacks, and pushing through moments of doubt that ultimately shapes who we are and determines our success. The value of persistence isn't just in what it allows us to achieve, but in who we become through the act of striving. When you persist, you are not just working toward a goal, you are cultivating essential qualities within yourself: resilience, patience, determination, and the capacity for self-discipline. These qualities are the true fruits of your labor. They are what carry you through life's challenges, allowing you to face adversity with a strength that comes not from avoiding difficulty, but from embracing it. The process of pushing forward day after day through the hard times forges a deeper sense of who you are and what you are capable of. Consider the way in which persistence builds your character. Each time you encounter a challenge and continue moving forward, you reinforce the idea that you are not easily deterred. You learn to manage your emotions, to overcome self-doubt, and to take responsibility for your actions. These are not lessons that are taught in a classroom. They are learned in the field of experience through real-world effort and application. The more you persist, the more you build a foundation of inner strength that makes it easier to handle whatever life throws your way in the future. In addition to building character, the act of persistence teaches you the value of delayed gratification. We live in a world that encourages instant rewards, whether it's through fast food, social media, or entertainment. This constant craving for immediate satisfaction can make the process of working towards something long-term feel grueling and unrewarding. But persistence teaches us the opposite, that the best things in life come not from instant fixes, but from sustained effort over time. When you persist through difficulty, you learn the satisfaction of delayed gratification, and that reward becomes far more meaningful than any immediate pleasure could provide. Moreover, persistence cultivates a mindset that sees failure not as a permanent roadblock, but as a temporary setback, a lesson to be learned. This shift in perspective is vital because it opens up a broader realm of possibilities. When you refuse to quit, you allow yourself the opportunity to fail and then rise again. You learn that mistakes are part of the journey, not the end of it. With each failure, you refine your approach, strengthen your resolve, and grow more capable. In this way, persistence is not just about achieving a goal. It's about developing a mindset that is not defined by success or failure, but by the willingness to continue to learn and to improve. Ultimately, the act of persisting shapes your future in ways that go beyond the achievement of specific goals. It's not just about what you accomplish, but about the qualities you cultivate and the person you become. The rewards of persistent strength, character, resilience, and the ability to persevere through hardship are the lasting gifts that will serve you long after the goal is reached. The journey is, in many ways, the destination itself. Every time you persist, even in the face of significant obstacles, you are creating a stronger, more capable version of yourself. Persistence isn't just a skill, it's a muscle that grows stronger with use. It's easy to look at someone who seems effortlessly successful and assume that their strength, resilience, or ability to persist comes from something inherent in them. But the truth is, persistence is built through repeated effort, and it is cultivated by facing adversity and choosing to keep going despite it. This process doesn't just allow you to achieve goals, it fundamentally changes how you approach life. When you choose to persist, you are teaching yourself how to handle adversity. Life, as we know, is filled with ups and downs. There will always be challenges, frustrations, and moments when things don't go according to plan. The real difference between those who succeed and those who falter is often not talent, intelligence, or opportunity, but the ability to remain determined when things are difficult. By persevering through hardship, you learn that challenges aren't permanent, they are part of the ebb and flow of life. The more you face them and keep moving forward, the easier it becomes to deal with whatever life throws at you in the future. This persistence not only builds your resilience, but also your capacity for adaptation. When things go wrong, when plans fall apart, it's easy to feel helpless, but persistence forces you to shift your mindset. Instead of seeing failure as an endpoint, you begin to view it as a necessary part of learning. Every time you push through discomfort, you develop new strategies for problem solving, innovation, and perseverance. Your ability to adapt and find new solutions is forged through those tough times. The more you persist, the more you learn how to adjust your approach, to find new angles, and to keep your eyes open for opportunities that might not have been immediately apparent. Furthermore, persistence instills a deep sense of discipline. In a world full of distractions and easy ways to take shortcuts, it's rare to find people who can focus their energy on something for the long haul. Persistence teaches you how to keep going when the world is telling you to quit. It is through consistent effort, over time, that you begin to realize the power of discipline. You understand that achievement is not about bursts of effort, followed by long periods of inactivity. It's about the daily commitment to keep moving forward, even when the results are not immediately visible. This discipline translates into all areas of life, from your career to your personal relationships to your health. In addition, persistence fosters self-belief. The more you keep going, even when everything within you screams to quit, the more you prove to yourself that you are capable. Each small victory, each time you push past a limit you thought was insurmountable, strengthens your confidence. Over time, this builds a robust sense of self-worth that is not contingent on the approval of others or on external markers of success. It's a confidence that comes from knowing you have the capacity to weather storms, to adapt to challenges, and to keep moving forward no matter what. When you persist, you are not just working toward a goal, you are shaping your character, your mindset, and your future. Persistence is not just about reaching the end point, it's about transforming yourself in the process. By consistently pushing through adversity, you unlock a deeper understanding of your own potential and capacity for growth. The more you persist, the more you realize that there is no limit to what you can achieve, as long as you are willing to put in the work and embrace the journey. In the end, the act of persisting, especially when you feel like quitting, shapes not just your accomplishments, but your very character. It teaches you resilience, builds discipline, and nurtures a deeper sense of self-belief that cannot be shaken by temporary setbacks. The obstacles you face are not roadblocks, they are opportunities to grow, to evolve, and to prove to yourself that you are capable of far more than you may initially realize. Every time you choose to keep going, despite the challenges, you are building a stronger version of yourself, one that can handle adversity with grace and persistence. Quitting may offer temporary relief, but it also carries long-term consequences that weaken your resolve and close the door to growth. On the other hand, persistence leads to transformation. It forces you to adapt, to overcome, and to emerge more capable with every hurdle you clear. The journey itself, fraught with difficulties and doubts, is where the real work happens, and it's in that process that the greatest rewards lie. Greatness is not defined by an absence of struggle, but by the willingness to endure it, to learn from it, and to come out the other side stronger. So the next time you feel like quitting, remember that the real strength lies in continuing, in learning to embrace the discomfort and see it as a sign of progress, not defeat. The future you stronger, wiser, and more capable is waiting for you on the other side of persistence. Keep moving forward and let the journey shape you into the person you are meant to become.